Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt, but you may know me as Lazy Urchin, and you caught me at an odd time. I was trying on my Koromaru costume, but that gives me a good idea. Why don't we talk about Persona 3, or specifically, why don't we talk about Digimon in Persona 3 instead of Personas? This has been an idea that I've had for about 2 days now. This is your spoiler warning, of course. Going into Persona 3 and Digimon, we're going to be talking about stuff like that. So if you don't want to be spoiled for either thing, go. This is how it's going to be. It's going to be the character on the left, their name, their arcana, and then their Digimon, and what persona it's over, and then the awakened form, and stuff like that. And I think with that out of the way, we can get started with, of course, the protagonist, Makoto Yuki. I figured Sirenmon worked over Orpheus pretty well because I'm gonna be honest, there's not a lot of music Digimon that I could find, and this works incredibly well with the start of Persona 3, where after summoning Orpheus, it transforms into Thanatos, which could be a dark digivolution into Myrmicusmon, which I thought this worked incredibly well. I was very proud of it. I love Myrmicusmon, it's such an odd design. But yeah, that just kind of worked. And then Valkyrien over Orpheus Telos because it continues the golden, slightly armored self parts of Sirenmon. It continues the bird theme while also having the sword like good old Makoto has. But yeah, I thought this worked pretty well. Now, there's not a lot of bull or cow themed Digimon, so I just went with Minotaurmon over Io for Yukari. Uh, I figure since her awakening comes later on in the game, she would be stuck with this one for a while, which isn't too much of an issue because Minotaurmon, it's a decent enough Digimon. It looks pretty strong. I think this works kind of well over Io. The only thing that doesn't mesh is the healing, but Vajramon over Isis, it's just kind of what it is. It is whatever. I figured this would work fine because once again, not a whole lot of bull or cow related Digimon. There, those that there are, there's not a lot of healing or wind themed ones, unlike Io and Isis from this. So I did the best I could. Up next is Junpei. Now, Leomon doesn't make much sense over Hermes, but trust me, it's the best I could come up with in a short amount of time. Yeah, I figure with Junpei's two-handed sword, using it like a baseball bat style of attacking, he'd work well with Leomon, who has a sword, but uses it less like a sword and more like a dagger. And then Mercurymon over Trismegistus, because Hermes Trismegistus. Mercury is the Roman name for Hermes. Hermes Trismegistus is another name for Hermes. This worked. And I started from here and went, Leomon would be a nice prevo for it because it's humanoid. It's got the dagger slash sword. It's kind of beastly but kind of humanish. It'll work fine. So if you have any ideas, please let me know them in the comments. Now, for Mitsuru, I went with Darkmon over Penthesilea. Just, there's not a lot of humanoid ice Digimon, especially not at the champion level. I tried to restrict it to champion for their base persona, and then their awakened form could be any level above that. But, yeah, Darkmon, it just kind of fits with Mitsuru. That's really all I have to say, other than, I'm sorry. And then Frost Velgermon over Artemisia, because A, Mitsuru's a bit of a rich lady, and rich people sometimes have peacocks, which kind of works. But then also, it's one of the few ice Digimon I could actually get to feel like it worked. And Digivolution's free, so a four-winged angel lady with a sword and a staff becoming an ice peacock by skipping an extra level, sure. Why not? Akihiko gets Gladymon over Polydeuces because I'm gonna be real, there isn't much better. Uh, this is one of the quite honestly very few sword and armor themed champions, and it just kind of fits. Like it works well with him. I could have given him Gatsumon. That would work too. And then Skull Knightmon White over Caesar. And this will be explained a bit later. Skull Knightmon White is from the Cross Wars manga, apparently. It's Skull Knightmon being purified or whatever. It's an interesting one. I hadn't heard of it before this video, but I I just his isn't the best done without some spoilers, which I'll talk about later, but yeah. And then we got Fuka. I gave her Shisamon over Lucia for the line highlighted down there. That's the reference book listing for Shisamon. But also in the idea that instead of personas, they have Digimon. It would make sense if she had a legendary holy beast Digimon protecting her instead of using her persona's abilities to hide in Tartarus during the Dark Hour. But yeah. And then over Juno, I gave her Junomon. I tried to do that with everyone I could, but there's not like every single mythical character being turned into a Digimon kind of thing. There's a good few of them, but from all sorts of mythologies. And I get that this one doesn't really work well as a comparison to her persona, but maybe she could like use the orb and the staff to see or something. I don't know. This one will take some explanations. I guess gets Digitamamon from Palladion, because Palladion is, if I remember correctly, a false persona, much like I guess is a false person. But I, especially with the evolution, which you'll see in a bit here, I figured Digitamamon would work well as it and Aegis both kind of are wearing a false face of sorts. Aegis wears humanoid disguise, Digitamamon wears the shell. And Minervamon, which is Athena or Minerva, works well, and weirdly enough, one of the most common Minervamon pre-evolutions is Digitamamon, which is why it is the one exception, if I remember correctly. It is one of the very few exceptions I make on the champion starting rule. Also because I'm biased. Alright. Aragaki gets Zonbamon over Caster. I always want to say Zombamon. I don't know why. But mostly because this one looks a decent amount like Caster. Like, if you've ever seen the Persona 3 Persona Caster, it looks kind of similar to this. That, and another reason we'll get into, but I figured these two look kind of similar, and this is one of the other exceptions to the champion rule. But I figured Zonbamon, upon the events of October 4th, would Digivolve to Ashuramon to Skull Knightmon, who would then fuse with Akihiko's Gladymon and cause it to become Skull Knightmon White. I figured that worked well. And then Ken gets Ginryumon, mostly because I hate Ken, and also because I feel like Ginryumon carries some of that silliness that Nemesis has. Like, if you've ever looked at Nemesis, it looks kind of stupid, man. I'm gonna be real. Its face is goofy. That's why I chose Ginryumon. Part of why I chose Ginryumon. I also chose Ginryumon for the evolution. I'm saying Ginryumon a lot. Anyways, it becomes Orochimon over Kalanemi because, well, A, I couldn't think of a better thing. B, in Kalanemi's description from its source material, I believe, if I remember correctly, it's described as snaking around the gear of time, almost described as the rim of it, and I figured, snaking around, good enough. Maybe some of Ashuramon's multi-heads got here. Koromaru, he gets Cerberumon over Cerberus. Yep. He does not have an awakened persona, at least not that I'm aware of. Jesus Christ, the fucking trucks in this town. Anyway, he doesn't have an awakened persona that I'm aware of, but if he did, it would probably end up being Cerberusmon werewolf mode, just because I can. But yeah. Now, Strega's Takaya, I figured Neo Devimon works well over Hypnos because if you look at the Persona 3, specifically the Persona 3 Reload, Hypnos, how am I supposed to turn that into a Digimon? Like, how am I supposed to look at a Digimon and go, yes, you look like Hypnos from Persona 3, and accurately have it look like it? I just did the best I could. I figured Neo Devimon worked kind of well, especially knowing Takaya's story. Jin gets Bomber Nannymon. Yeah, there ain't a lot of explosive themed Digimon that are uh, more notable than Bomber Nannymon, the one who was censored. Uh, I I did what I could for this video. It's not gonna be great. Not all of these are gonna be perfect matches, but for the ones like this, it works well enough. Chidori, she gets Mephismon over Medea because Medea has the goat head. If you know the events of her hospital stay, you will understand why I chose a darker Digimon for this. Yeah, being vague, but I already have a spoiler warning. Her persona tries to kill her. I figured Mephismon might turn on her. It's a dark enough Digimon. Who cares? Nick's avatar, I'm just putting Ravemon burst mode over it because it's got the raven wings, it's got sharp blade like feathers. I did not care at this point. There is no Digimon that is a six-winged humanoid figure with a giant sword. Not yet, at least. So, I did what I could, man. I tried my best. Yeah, that's kind of about it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. It was a pleasure to make. I have to shout out my boy Braden for playing Persona 3 Reload and having me watch the experience. That was a fun time. But yeah, thanks for watching and be good people and have a good one, alright folks? See you around.